Tonight, a woman will witness her own death, not a physical death, but the death of faith, of love, of everything she ever believed to be true. Vivienne Knox stands outside in the rain, watching her husband kiss another woman through the clear glass. 5 years of marriage shattered in a single kiss. But this is not the end. This is when the devil is born. Follow this story to the end, like, and comment the name of the city you're watching in so I know how far this story has progressed. Now let me tell you about the most perfect revenge Manhattan has ever witnessed. The rain came down in sheets that night, the kind that turned Manhattan streets into rivers of neon and garbage. Vivienne Knox stood outside Aurelio's, the city's most exclusive restaurant, holding a cake box that was slowly disintegrating in her hands. White frosting bled through the cardboard. 5 years. She'd baked it herself because Ethan always said her grandmother's recipe reminded him of home. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see everything. Her husband, Ethan Mercer, Golden Boy, CEO. The man who promised her forever on a beach in the Hamptons while violins played and her mother cried happy tears. He was kissing someone else. Not a quick kiss. Not a drunk mistake. A real kiss. The kind that said this wasn't the first time. His hand was on the small of the woman's back, the same spot he used to touch Vivienne when they danced. The woman wore crimson. Vivienne wore yesterday's jeans and a coat that smelled like Subway. Photographers were inside, flashes going off like fireworks. They were documenting this, making it official, making it public. Vivienne's phone buzzed. A text from her sister Sarah. "Are you seeing this? It's all over Twitter." So the world knew before she did. The cake box slipped from her fingers and exploded on the wet pavement. White frosting mixed with rain and spread across the sidewalk like blood. A homeless man nearby laughed. "Rough night, lady?" She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just stood there watching her marriage die in high definition while strangers on the internet made jokes about it. Then Ethan saw her. Their eyes met through the glass. She waited for guilt, for panic, for something human. He rolled his eyes, actually rolled them. Then he said something to the woman in crimson and walked outside, not even bothering to put on a jacket. The rain hit his expensive suit, and he didn't care. "Vivienne." His voice was flat, annoyed, like she'd interrupted something important. "What are you doing here?" "It's our anniversary." Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "I made you a cake." He glanced at the white mess on the sidewalk. "You should have called first." That was it. No explanation, no apology, just irritation that she'd shown up to her own marriage. "Who is she?" Vivienne heard herself ask. "Does it matter?" Ethan ran a hand through his wet hair. "Look, we'll talk about this later. I have investors inside. This is important." "More important than me?" "Don't be dramatic." He checked his watch. A Patek Philippe she'd given him for their first anniversary. "Go home. We'll figure this out tomorrow." Something cracked inside her chest. Not her heart. That would have hurt less. This was deeper. The foundation of who she thought she was. The woman who believed in love and loyalty and keeping promises. "Figure what out?" she asked. "How to hide this better, or how to tell me you're leaving?" Ethan's jaw tightened. Around them, people were starting to stare. A couple walked past, pretending not to listen. "You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" Vivienne laughed, and it sounded wrong. Broken. "You're kissing another woman in front of photographers on our anniversary, and I'm making a scene?" "Keep your voice down." He stepped closer, his cologne mixing with rain, the same cologne she used to love. "You want to know the truth?" "Fine. Her name is Madison. We've been together 6 months. She gets it. She gets this life. You never did." 6 months. While Vivienne was planning their anniversary dinner, while she was working 60-hour weeks at the nonprofit she'd given up her law career for because Ethan said it would look better for his image, while she was being the perfect wife. "I gave up everything for you," she whispered. "Nobody asked you to." His voice was cold, surgical. "You chose to play house while I built an empire. That's not my fault." The photographers had followed him outside now, cameras clicking, recording every moment of her humiliation. Tomorrow, this would be everywhere. Ethan Mercer's wife having a breakdown in the rain while he moved on with someone younger, prettier, more suitable. Sign the papers when I send them, Ethan said. My lawyers will make it quick. You'll be fine. Then he turned and walked back inside. Back to Madison in crimson. Back to his empire. Back to a life where Vivienne Knox had never mattered at all. She stood there as the rain soaked through her coat, as her phone exploded with messages from friends and family who'd seen the photos, as a photographer asked if she had any comment for page 6. Vivienne Knox had nothing to say, because the woman they were photographing no longer existed. She didn't go home that night. Home was the penthouse they'd bought together in Tribeca. Home was full of furniture they'd picked out and photos from a marriage that turned out to be fiction. Instead, Vivienne walked, 30 blocks through rain that never stopped. Her phone kept buzzing, Sarah calling, her mother calling, her best friend Julia calling. She turned it off and kept walking. By the time she reached Grand Central Station, she'd made a decision. The next train to anywhere was Chicago, leaving in 40 minutes. Vivienne bought a ticket with cash, went to the bathroom and stared at herself in the mirror under fluorescent lights that made her look like a corpse. Mascara streaked down her face, hair plastered to her skull. The woman looking back at her was a stranger. Good. She threw her phone in the trash, threw her wedding ring in after it, watched them disappear under paper towels and coffee cups. Then Vivienne Knox walked onto that train and disappeared. Chicago hit different than New York. Colder, meaner. A city that didn't pretend to care about your feelings. Perfect. She rented a studio apartment in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions. Got a job bartending at a dive called the Velvet Room. Paid rent in cash. Told people her name was Vera. For 6 months, she was nobody. Just another pretty bartender pouring drinks for men who thought tips bought them conversation. She learned to smile without meaning it. Learned to pour bourbon without measuring. Learned to disappear into crowds. But late at night, alone in her studio with sirens screaming outside, Vivienne would lie awake and feel something growing inside her chest. Not sadness. Rage. Pure, focused, patient rage. She started small. Spent her days off in libraries reading everything she could find about corporate law, financial systems, shell corporations. The things she'd forgotten after giving up her career. The knowledge she'd traded for being Mrs. Mercer. She took online courses in business strategy. Studied merger and acquisition tactics. Learned how empires were built and destroyed. Because if Ethan had taught her anything, it was this. Power mattered more than love. And she was going to learn how to take his away. The night everything changed started like any other. Vivienne was working the bar at the Velvet Room when 3 men in expensive suits walked in. They didn't belong here. This was a place for construction workers and students, not men who wore watches worth more than most people's cars. The bar went quiet. Even the regulars who were usually drunk and loud suddenly found their drinks fascinating. The man in the center was tall, maybe 40, with dark hair going silver at the temples. He moved like violence in a suit. Like every step was calculated. His eyes swept the room once and everyone else looked away. Everyone except Vivienne. She'd learned in New York that powerful men expected fear, expected women to blush and stammer, so she just dried a glass and waited. Bourbon, the man said. His voice was smooth, controlled. Neat. Vivienne poured, slid the glass across the bar without commentary. He took a sip, raised an eyebrow. Pappy Van Winkle in a dive bar? Owner has good taste, she shrugged. Or good connections. Which is it? Both. The corner of his mouth twitched. Might have been a smile, hard to tell. You're new here. 6 months. Before that? Before doesn't matter. Vivienne met his eyes. Most women probably melted under that stare. She just saw another man who thought he was special. You want another drink or a biography? One of his companions tensed, put a hand inside his jacket, but the man in the center held up one finger and his friend froze. What's your name? He asked. Vera. Your real name. That is my real name. It was now. Vivienne was dead. You got one, or are you too important? This time he definitely smiled. Roman. The regulars who were listening went pale. One guy actually left money on the bar and walked out without finishing his beer. Vivienne didn't recognize the name. Didn't care. She'd stopped being impressed by men who thought their reputations preceded them. Nice to meet you, Roman. She turned to wash more glasses. Stick around if you want, but we close at 2. Behind her, she heard one of his men whisper urgently in Italian. Roman said something back in the same language. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. You really don't know who I am, he said. Should I? Most people do. I'm not most people. Vivienne faced him again. And I stopped caring about important men a long time ago. Roman studied her like she was a puzzle. What happened? Nothing worth talking about. She poured herself a shot of whiskey, drank it in one swallow. Life happened, I learned. Now I pour drinks and mind my business. That's a waste. Of what? You. He finished his bourbon, stood up, left $300 bills on the bar. Keep the change, Vera. Then he walked out with his men following like shadows. The bartender working the other end came over, eyes wide. Do you have any idea who that was? Some guy named Roman. That's Roman Castelli. The bartender's voice dropped to a whisper. He owns half this city. The other half is too scared to say no. Vivienne looked at the $300, then at the door where Roman had disappeared. Good for him, she said. But something had shifted. She felt it, like the air pressure changing before a storm. Roman came back the next night, and the night after that. He always sat at the end of the bar, always ordered bourbon. Never stayed long, but every time he'd watch Vivienne work with those calculating eyes. On the 4th night, he finally spoke again. You're educated, he said. So? You hide it, dumb down your vocabulary, but I've been watching. When you think nobody's listening, you slip. Use words like consequently and juxtaposition. That's not bartender talk. Vivienne's hand stilled on the glass she was drying. Maybe I read a lot. Maybe. Roman leaned forward. Or maybe you're running from something, someone, a past that required expensive education and careful words. That's a lot of assumptions. I'm good at reading people. He paused. You're angry, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the dangerous kind. Someone hurt you badly and you're still bleeding. Vivienne's jaw clenched. You don't know anything about me. I know more than you think. Roman's voice softened slightly. I know what it looks like when someone decides to disappear. When they choose survival over dignity. I've seen it before. Then you know to leave it alone. Usually. He finished his drink. But you're different. How? You're not hiding because you're weak. His eyes locked on hers. You're hiding because you're planning something, and that interests me. Vivienne should have walked away. Should have told him to finish his drink and leave. But there was something in his voice, recognition, like he saw through all her carefully constructed walls to the person underneath, the person who wanted to burn Manhattan to the ground. What do you want, Roman? She asked quietly. To offer you a job. I have a job, not one that uses what you're capable of. He slid a business card across the bar, heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. No company name, just a phone number. I need someone smart, someone who understands how legitimate businesses work, someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty. I'm a bartender. You're a woman with the law degree who speaks 3 languages and knows corporate merger tactics well enough to spend her nights off reading SEC filings in the library. Roman's smile was sharp. Did you think I wouldn't check? Vivienne's blood went cold. He'd been watching her. Really watching her. What are you? She asked. FBI? Private investigator? Neither. Roman stood up. I'm someone who recognizes potential. And you, Vera, or whatever your real name is, have more potential than anyone I've met in years. You're wasting it pouring drinks for drunks. Maybe I like simple. No, you don't. His voice cut through her defenses. You like the idea of simple. But every night you go home and read about corporate warfare because you're planning something, building toward something. You just don't have the resources yet. He was right. God help her. He was completely right. Call me, Roman said, or don't. But that offer expires in 1 week. Then he left. Vivienne stared at the card for a long time. Then she tucked it into her pocket and went back to work. She lasted 3 days. 3 days of pouring drinks and dodging drunk hands and going home to her tiny studio where the heat barely worked. 3 days of thinking about Ethan, about Madison in her crimson dress, about photographers capturing her humiliation. 3 days of rage building until she couldn't breathe. On the fourth day, Vivienne called the number. Roman answered on the first ring. "I was beginning to think you'd forgotten." "What kind of job?" she asked. "The kind that pays well. The kind that uses your brain. The kind that gives you access to power." He paused. "The kind that could help you destroy whoever hurt you." Vivienne's breath caught. "How do you know?" "Because I've seen that look before," Roman interrupted. "In my own mirror. Someone took something from you, something important, and now you want to take everything from them." She said nothing, couldn't deny it. "Meet me tomorrow," Roman said. "Rossetti's, 8 p.m. Come alone." The line went dead. Vivienne stood in her studio apartment, card still in her hand, and realized she'd just made a choice. Maybe the most dangerous choice of her life. But she was so tired of being powerless, so tired of being the woman Ethan left behind. She wanted to be someone else, someone feared. Tugged. Rossetti's was the kind of restaurant where politicians and criminals sat 3 tables apart and pretended not to know each other. Vivienne walked in wearing the only dress she still owned from her old life. Black, simple, expensive. Roman was already there. Private booth in the back, 2 men standing nearby who were definitely armed. "Sit," he said. Vivienne sat. A waiter appeared immediately with wine. The good stuff. Probably cost more than her monthly rent. She didn't touch it. "Tell me about him," Roman said. "Who?" "The man who made you disappear." Roman's eyes were sharp. "The one you're planning to destroy." Vivienne's throat tightened. Don't lie to me, Vera, or Vivienne, or whatever you're calling yourself this week." He leaned back. "I had you investigated, thoroughly. I know about Ethan Mercer, about your marriage, about the night he humiliated you in front of half of New York." She should have been angry, should have walked out, but all she felt was exhausted relief that someone finally knew the truth. "Why do you care?" she asked. "Because I see potential." Roman sipped his wine. "You have something most people don't. Intelligence combined with rage. Education combined with nothing to lose. That's valuable." "Valuable how?" "I run a complicated organization, legitimate businesses mixed with less legitimate enterprises. I need someone who understands both worlds, someone who can move between boardrooms and backrooms without flinching." "You want me to work for a criminal," Vivienne said flatly. "I want you to work for someone who can give you what you want." Roman's voice was quiet, intense. Power, resources, protection. Everything you need to make Ethan Mercer regret the day he met you. "And what do you get?" "Your loyalty, your intelligence, your complete discretion." He paused. "And eventually, if you prove yourself, partnership." Vivienne laughed. It sounded bitter. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Roman slid a folder across the table. "That's everything I found about you. Read it. See how thorough I am. Then decide if you trust me to help you." She opened the folder. Inside was her entire life. Marriage certificate. Divorce papers Ethan had filed without telling her. Financial records showing how he'd already started moving their assets into accounts she couldn't access. Photos from that night in the rain, and underneath it all, something else. Research on Ethan, his company, his weaknesses, his secrets. "You've already started planning this," Vivienne whispered. "I started the moment I realized who you were." Roman's smile was cold. "Consider it an investment. You help me, I help you. We both get what we want. What if I say no?" "Then you go back to bartending and I find someone else." He shrugged. "But we both know you're not going to say no, because staying small won't satisfy you anymore. You've tasted what it feels like to be powerless. Now you want the opposite." He was right. Again. Vivienne looked at the folder, at her destroyed life documented in black and white, at the research on Ethan that could be the beginning of revenge. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I need guarantees, protection, and I need to know exactly what kind of organization you run." "Fair." Roman pulled out another folder, thicker. "That's everything. My businesses, my associates, the full picture. Read it tonight. Tomorrow you decide, yes or no." And if it's yes, then your old life ends completely. Roman's voice was hard. Vivienne Knox disappears forever. You become someone new, someone mine, someone untouchable. The word hung in the air between them. Untouchable. Everything she'd wanted to be when Ethan was kissing Madison in front of cameras. One question, Vivienne said. Ask? Why me? Really? You could hire anyone. Why pick up a bartender? Roman was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, honest. Because I've built everything through fear and force, and it works. But there's a limit to what violence can accomplish. He met her eyes. You understand something I don't. How to move in legitimate circles. How to make enemies destroy themselves. How to be ruthless without anyone seeing the knife. You think I can do that? I know you can. Roman smiled slightly. Because you're already doing it. You've been researching Ethan's company for months, building knowledge, waiting for the right opportunity. You just need resources. Vivienne's hands trembled slightly. If I say yes, there's no going back. No, Roman agreed. But there's also no going forward if you stay in that studio apartment pretending to be someone you're not. He stood up, left both folders on the table. Tomorrow night, same time, same place. He buttoned his jacket. Choose carefully, Vivienne, because once you step into my world, the only way out is in a coffin. Then he walked away, leaving her alone with 2 folders and a choice that would define the rest of her life. Vivienne sat there until her wine went warm. Then she picked up both folders and went home to read about becoming someone completely different, someone dangerous, someone who could make Ethan Mercer wish he'd never been born. She didn't sleep that night. Vivienne read every page, every document, every secret Roman had handed her. His organization was massive. Import/export businesses that moved everything from legitimate cargo to things that weren't in any customs manifest. Casinos in 3 states. Real estate holdings worth hundreds of millions. Political connections that went all the way to senators and judges. And underneath all of it, the darker things. Protection rackets. Gambling. Money laundering sophisticated enough to make accountants weep. Roman Castelli wasn't just a criminal. He was an empire. And he was offering her a throne beside his. By morning, Vivienne had made her decision. She walked to the nearest bank, withdrew everything in her account, closed it, went back to her apartment and packed everything she owned into 2 suitcases. Then she set fire to every document that had Vivienne Knox's name on it. Birth certificate, social security card, the law degree she'd never use, photos from her wedding. She watched them burn in the kitchen sink until there was nothing left but ash. At 7:55 p.m., she walked into Rossetti's wearing the same black dress. Roman was waiting. Well? He asked. Vivienne sat down, met his eyes without flinching. My name is Vera Castellano, she said, and I'm ready to work. Roman's smile was slow and dangerous and approving. Welcome to the family, he said. And somewhere far away, in a penthouse in Manhattan, Ethan Mercer had no idea that the woman he'd destroyed had just become his worst nightmare. The first 3 months working for Roman Castelli taught Vivienne something crucial. Power wasn't loud. It was quiet, surgical, a whisper in the right ear that could collapse entire businesses. She started small. Roman tested her with minor tasks, reviewing contracts for his legitimate holdings, sitting in on meetings with accountants who moved money through so many shell corporations, even the IRS gave up trying to track it. Watching, learning, keeping her mouth shut. But Roman was watching too. One night in his office, a converted warehouse in the meatpacking district, where the walls were concrete and soundproof, he slid a file across his desk. Tell me what you see, he said. Vivienne opened it. Financial statements from a restaurant chain Roman owned, numbers that didn't quite add up. Revenue reported to the government versus actual cash flow. The gap was significant. Someone's skimming, she said after 2 minutes. Maybe 20% off the top, clean enough that a casual audit wouldn't catch it, but consistent enough that it's deliberate. Roman leaned back in his chair. Who? She flipped through more pages, traced the discrepancies. Your CFO, Marcus, he's been doing it for at least 18 months. Probably has offshore accounts. Thinks you're too busy with other operations to notice restaurant revenue. And if you were me, what would you do? Vivienne looked up. Roman's face was unreadable. This was a test. She could feel it. Depends on the goal, she said carefully. You want to make an example? You confront him publicly. Let everyone know what happens to thieves. But that creates fear without loyalty. And the alternative? You let him think he's getting away with it. Use him to feed false information to whoever he's reporting to. Because men who steal usually don't work alone. She paused. Then when you've mapped his entire network, you clean house all at once. Roman's smile was slow, predatory. You've been thinking about this kind of thing for a while, haven't you? Every night for 6 months, Vivienne admitted. In that studio apartment, planning how to take apart the people who hurt me. I just didn't have the resources. You do now. Roman stood up, poured 2 glasses of bourbon from a crystal decanter, handed her one. Marcus has been stealing from me for 2 years. I've known for 18 months. Been waiting to see who else was involved. And 3 other people in the organization, 2 legitimate employees, 1 competitor who thought he could use Marcus to get inside information. Roman's voice went cold. Tomorrow night, they all disappear, quietly, permanently. Vivienne's hand tightened on the glass. You're going to kill them. I'm going to remove a cancer before it spreads. Roman met her eyes. Does that bother you? It should have. 6 months ago, Vivienne Knox would have been horrified, would have reported this to the police, would have believed in justice and legal systems. But Vivienne Knox was dead, and the woman holding this bourbon had learned that the world didn't care about right and wrong, only about who had power and who didn't. No, she said quietly. It doesn't bother me. Roman studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Good, because next week you're coming to New York with me. Vivienne's blood went cold. Why? Business meeting, merger negotiation with a shipping company. He paused. And because you need to see your old hunting grounds again, see if you're ready. Ready for what? To go back as someone different. Roman's voice was soft, almost gentle. To walk through Manhattan, knowing nobody can touch you anymore. That's when you'll know you've changed. Vivienne finished her bourbon in one swallow. It burned going down. What if I'm not ready? Then we wait. Roman refilled her glass. But something tells me you've been ready since the night you stepped on that train. New York hit differently when you arrived in a private jet. Vivienne stood at the window watching the city come into view. All those lights, all those people. Somewhere down there, Ethan was probably in his office or at some gala with Madison, completely unaware that his ex-wife was about to land in Manhattan with the most dangerous man in America. You're quiet, Roman said behind her, just thinking. About him? She didn't have to ask who. About how small he is. How small all of it was. Roman came to stand beside her. He was dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her old apartment. When was the last time you were here? The night I left, 1.5 years ago. Vivienne's reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Hair different, clothes different, eyes harder. I swore I'd never come back. And yet here you are. Here I am. The jet touched down at Teterboro. A black SUV was waiting on the tarmac with 2 of Roman's men already inside. They drove into Manhattan as the sun set, turning the city gold and red. Vivienne watched it all through tinted windows. The streets she used to walk, the restaurants where she'd met friends for brunch, the subway stops where she'd commuted to the nonprofit job she'd loved before giving it up for Ethan. All of it felt like someone else's life. They checked into the Mark. Penthouse suite. Roman had business meetings scheduled. Vivienne was supposed to review acquisition documents and stay out of sight. But that night, alone in a hotel room overlooking Central Park, she did something stupid. She looked up Ethan Mercer online. Shouldn't have. Knew better. Did it anyway. The internet was full of him. New photos, new interviews. Mercer Holdings had just closed a major deal. Ethan was on the cover of Forbes looking smug and successful and completely fine. Madison was in the photos too. They'd gotten engaged 3 months ago. Big diamond, bigger party. The comment sections were full of people calling them a power couple. Nobody remembered Vivienne. She'd been erased, written out of the story. Just the first wife. The one who didn't matter. Vivienne closed the laptop before she put her fist through the screen. Her phone buzzed. Text from Roman. Meeting ran late. Dinner tomorrow instead. Don't do anything stupid. Too late. She grabbed her coat and walked out of the hotel before she could think better of it. What? Tribeca looked the same. Same coffee shop on the corner, same dry cleaner, same doorman at the building where she used to live. Vivienne stood across the street staring up at the penthouse windows. Lights were on. Someone was home. This was insane. She should leave, go back to the hotel, pretend she'd never come here. But her feet carried her forward anyway. The doorman didn't recognize her. Why would he? She looked completely different, hair darker, makeup harder, clothes that screamed money in a different way than before. Can I help you? He asked. I'm here to see Ethan Mercer. The lie came easily. He's expecting me. The doorman checked his list. I don't have you down. He must have forgotten to add me. Vivienne smiled, the kind of smile that said she was used to getting what she wanted. Call up. Tell him Vera's here. He hesitated, then picked up the phone. Mr. Mercer? There's a woman named Vera in the lobby. Yes, sir. I'll send her up. The elevator ride took forever. Vivienne watched the numbers climb and realized her hands were shaking, shoved them in her pockets, breathed slowly, reminded herself she wasn't that woman anymore, the one who'd stood in the rain holding a ruined cake. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. Their penthouse. Except it didn't look the same. New furniture, new art. Everything Vivienne had chosen was gone, replaced with Madison's taste. Minimalist, cold, expensive in a way that had no personality. Ethan walked into the entryway holding a scotch. He was in his shirt sleeves, tie loosened. He looked tired. Then he saw her and stopped dead. Vivienne? She said nothing, just stood there watching him process, watching his brain try to reconcile the woman in his lobby with the broken thing he'd left behind. What are you doing here? His voice was sharp, defensive. Just passing through. Vivienne stepped further into the apartment, into the space that used to be hers. Thought I'd see how the other half lives. You need to leave. Why? Afraid Madison will come home and find you with your ex-wife? She smiled. It felt like glass. Oh wait, she's not home, is she? I checked her Instagram. She's at some charity thing in the Hamptons. You didn't go? Ethan's jaw clenched. How did you get past security? I asked nicely. Vivienne walked to the windows. The view was the same, all of Manhattan spread out below like they owned it. You changed everything. I barely recognized this place. It needed updating. I needed updating too. Look how that turned out. She turned to face him. You look good, Ethan. Success suits you. What do you want? He set down his scotch, crossed his arms. Money? Is that it? The divorce settlement wasn't enough? Vivienne laughed, really laughed. You think I'm here for money? Why else would you show up after disappearing for a year and a half? Curiosity. She moved closer, watched him tense. Good. I wanted to see if you ever thought about me, if you ever felt guilty. But looking at you now, I can tell you didn't. We were wrong for each other, Ethan said flatly. I'm sorry it ended badly, but I'm not sorry it ended. Neither am I. Vivienne's voice was soft, dangerous. You did me a favor, actually. Taught me something important. What's that? That loyalty is a weakness. That love makes you stupid. That the only thing that matters is power. She smiled. So thank you for the lesson. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You seem different. I am different. Vivienne headed for the elevator, pushed the button. I'm not that sad little woman who stood in the rain anymore. I'm someone you can't hurt. Is that supposed to scare me? The elevator doors opened. Vivienne stepped inside. No, she said as the doors started to close. It's supposed to prepare you. The last thing she saw was Ethan's face going pale. Roman was waiting when she got back to the hotel, sitting in the dark in one of the armchairs. Vivienne walked in and stopped short. How long have you been here? She asked. Long enough. His voice was quiet. Where did you go? For a walk? Don't lie to me, Vivienne. Roman stood up, turned on a lamp. His face was carved from stone. I have people watching you, for your protection. They said you went to Tribeca, to your old address. Vivienne's stomach dropped. You're having me followed? I'm keeping you alive. Roman crossed the room in 3 steps, got right in her face. Do you have any idea how stupid that was, going to see him, letting him know you're in New York? He didn't recognize me. Bullshit. I saw the security footage. He knew exactly who you were. Roman's voice was hard, cold. You compromised yourself. Compromised our operation. For what? To prove you're over him? I am over him. Then why go at all? Roman grabbed her arm, not rough, but firm. You want revenge? Fine. We'll give you revenge, but not like this. Not by showing your hand before you're ready. Vivienne jerked her arm away. I didn't show anything. I just wanted to see him, see if he was happy. And was he? Yes. The word tasted like poison. He's completely fine. Got everything he wanted. New fiancé, successful company, no consequences for anything he did. Good. Roman's voice softened slightly. Let him be comfortable. Let him think he won. Because when we move against him, I want it to destroy him completely. And that only works if he never sees it coming. Vivienne sank onto the couch, put her head in her hands. I shouldn't have gone. I know. It was stupid. Yes, it was. Roman sat beside her. But I understand. You wanted to see if it still hurt, if he still had power over you. And he doesn't. Vivienne looked up. That's what scared me. I looked at him and felt nothing, not love, not hate. Just nothing, like he was a stranger. That's good? Is it? Because I spent 6 months being angry, planning. That anger kept me going. Without it, what am I? Roman was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, honest. You're someone who understands what I'm building. Someone smart enough to see 3 moves ahead. Someone who doesn't flinch when things get ugly. He paused. You're valuable, Vivienne, with or without your anger. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know you better than you think. Roman stood up, poured 2 glasses of bourbon from the minibar, handed her one. I know you gave up a law career because Ethan asked you to. Know you volunteered 60 hours a week at a nonprofit helping domestic violence survivors get legal representation. Know you learned Italian in college because you wanted to read Dante in the original text. Vivienne stared at him. How do you know all that? I told you, I'm thorough. He sipped his bourbon. You were brilliant before Ethan convinced you to be smaller, and you're brilliant now. Don't waste that brilliance on reckless gestures. So what do I do? You wait, you learn. You become so powerful that when you finally move against him, it's not personal anymore. It's just business. Roman's smile was cold. The best revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's making them irrelevant. Vivienne thought about that. About Ethan in his penthouse with his new life. About how satisfied he looked. How complete. I want him to hurt, she said quietly. The way I hurt. He will. Roman's voice was certain. But on our terms, our timeline. Understood? Vivienne nodded slowly. Good. Roman finished his drink. We're staying in New York another week. I have more meetings. You're going to attend some of them. Start making connections, building your own network. In New York? Why not? This is your city too. Just because Ethan's here doesn't mean you have to hide. Roman headed for the door, paused. And Vivienne? No more secret trips to Tribeca. If you want to see him again, we do it properly, with leverage. Then he left. Vivienne sat alone in the suite drinking bourbon and staring at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Ethan was probably asleep, comfortable, safe. She'd fix that, eventually. The next morning, Roman took her to a breakfast meeting at Per Se, the kind of place where reservations took months, and the clientele included senators and CEOs. They met with a man named Lawrence Chen, mid-50s, impeccable suit, dead eyes behind expensive glasses. He owned a private equity firm that specialized in hostile takeovers. Roman, Lawrence said warmly. Then his eyes landed on Vivienne. And who's this? My associate, Vera Castellano. Roman didn't elaborate. Didn't need to. Lawrence's eyes lingered a moment too long. Pleasure. They ordered, made small talk about the market. Then Lawrence leaned forward. I heard you're looking into the Mercer deal, he said to Roman. Vivienne's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Roman's expression didn't change. Where did you hear that? I have sources, Lawrence smiled. Mercer Holdings is vulnerable right now, overextended on their last acquisition. Board's getting nervous. Stock's been sliding for 3 months. Is that so? Roman's voice was neutral. I'm putting together a consortium. Hostile takeover. Force Ethan Mercer out of his own company, replace the board, strip the assets. Lawrence paused. Thought you might be interested in participating. For the right price. Vivienne's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. Roman was planning something with Mercer Holdings. Had been planning it without telling her. Interesting, Roman said. What's your timeline? 6 months. Maybe less if we move aggressively. Lawrence glanced at Vivienne. Does your associate have any input? She looks like she has opinions. Roman's eyes flicked to her. A warning. Don't react. Vivienne forced herself to smile. Just listening, learning. Smart woman, Lawrence turned back to Roman. Think about it. Call me next week. We'll discuss terms. The rest of breakfast was a blur. Business talk, market analysis, Lawrence showing off his knowledge. Vivienne barely heard any of it. When they finally left, she waited until they were in the car before turning on Roman. You're going after Mercer Holdings? Her voice was low, intense. You're planning to destroy Ethan's company and you didn't think to mention it? I was waiting for the right time. The right time? Vivienne's hands clenched into fists. I've been working for you for 3 months, proving myself. And this whole time you've been planning exactly what I wanted without telling me? Because you weren't ready. Roman's voice was hard. You just proved that last night. Going to his apartment, showing yourself. That's not strategic, that's emotional. Of course it's emotional. He destroyed my life. And will destroy his. Roman grabbed her wrist, held it firm. But my way. Not yours. Because your way gets messy, gets people killed, gets us exposed. I don't care about exposure. I care about making him pay. Then you're thinking too small. Roman let go of her wrist. Lawrence's takeover will bankrupt Ethan. Strip him of everything. Leave him humiliated and powerless. Isn't that what you want? I want to be part of it. Vivienne's voice shook. I want to watch him fall. I earned that. You haven't earned anything yet. Roman's voice cut like a blade. You're still the woman who stood in the rain. Still the woman who couldn't stop herself from going to his apartment. Still the woman who lets emotion cloud judgment. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter. Results matter. Roman leaned back. You want to be part of taking down Ethan Mercer? Fine. But you do it my way. You learn patience. You learn to play the long game. You become someone he can't recognize even when you're standing right in front of him. Vivienne wanted to scream, wanted to hit something, but Roman was right and she hated it. How long? She asked quietly. How long what? How long until I'm ready? Until you let me be part of this? Roman studied her. When you can sit across from Ethan at a business dinner and not flinch. When you can shake his hand and smile. When you can be in the same room without your pulse spiking. He paused. When revenge stops being personal and starts being professional. That could take years. Then it takes years. Roman's voice was final. I'm building an empire, Vivienne, not feeding your trauma. If you can't separate the two, this partnership ends now. The car went silent. Vivienne stared out the window at Manhattan rushing past. At the city where she used to live. Where she used to be someone who believed in love and fairness and happy endings. That woman was gone. But the woman sitting here wasn't fully formed yet either. She was caught between who she'd been and who she was becoming, between revenge and power, between emotion and strategy. Teach me, she said finally. Teach me how to be what you need, how to be someone Ethan can't hurt anymore. Roman was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, but this is going to hurt. Becoming someone new always does. I'm already hurt, Vivienne said. What's a little more? Roman kept his word. The next 6 months were brutal. He sent her back to Chicago, but changed everything. New apartment, luxury high-rise. Her own office in one of his legitimate businesses, an import-export company that moved luxury goods. On paper, she was a consultant. In reality, She was learning how Roman's empire worked, how to move money without leaving traces, how to buy politicians without direct contact, how to threaten someone without ever making a threat, how to smile at people you plan to destroy. She attended meetings with Roman's associates, men who ran unions and shipping companies and construction firms, men who looked at her like she was decoration until she opened her mouth. Then their expressions changed, because Vivienne had stopped playing small. She studied corporate law again, merger and acquisition tactics, hostile takeover strategies. She learned how to read financial statements and find weaknesses, how to identify which board members could be bought and which ones just wanted respect. And every night, alone in her new apartment, she studied Ethan, his company, his partners, his investors, his secrets. Mercer Holdings was vulnerable. Lawrence had been right. The last acquisition had been expensive. The integration was going badly. Stock price declining, board getting nervous. Ethan was scrambling, making mistakes, getting desperate. Perfect. Vivienne built dossiers on every major player in his company, found their weaknesses, their debts, their affairs, their addictions, everything that could be leveraged. She became obsessed, Roman noticed. "You're not sleeping," he said one night during dinner at his compound outside Chicago. A former factory converted into luxury living space with security that could withstand military assault. "I'm fine." "You're not." Roman set down his fork. "You've lost weight. You look exhausted. You're working 18-hour days." "So do you." "I'm used to it. You're burning yourself out." His voice softened slightly. "This isn't sustainable, Vivienne. I need to be ready. You said 6 months. It's been 5. And you've improved dramatically." Roman leaned back. "But you're still too focused on Ethan, too personal." "How can it not be personal?" Vivienne's voice rose. "He's the reason I'm here, the reason I became this." "No." Roman's voice was sharp. "You became this because you chose to, because you wanted power more than you wanted to stay safe. Ethan was just the catalyst." "Same thing." "It's not." Roman stood up, poured more wine. "You want to know the difference between revenge and power? Revenge is about the past. Power is about the future. Right now, you're still living in the past. Then how do I stop? You make Ethan irrelevant. You build something bigger than him, something that matters." Roman came around the table, stood behind her chair. "You've spent 5 months learning how to destroy his company. Now spend 1 month building something of your own." Vivienne turned to look up at him. "Like what?" "That's for you to decide." Roman's hand rested on her shoulder, heavy, possessive. "But until you figure it out, you're going to burn out. And that helps no one." He was right. Again. Vivienne had been so focused on destroying Ethan that she hadn't thought about what came after, what she actually wanted beyond revenge. "I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted quietly. "Without the anger, without the planning. I don't know what I want." "Then figure it out." Roman's voice was gentle, almost kind. "Because in 1 month, we're going back to New York. We're going to that charity gala where all of Manhattan's elite gather, and you're going to walk in as my partner, as someone powerful in your own right. Ethan will be there. I'm counting on it." Roman's smile was cold. "That's when we see if you're really ready, if you can stand beside me while your ex-husband watches and realizes his mistake." Vivienne's hands trembled. "And if I'm not ready?" "Then we wait longer." Roman moved away. "But I don't think we'll have to, because despite everything, you're the strongest person I've met. You just don't know it yet." The month passed in a blur. Vivienne stopped obsessing over Ethan, started focusing on herself instead. She took Roman's advice, started building something, a consulting firm, legitimate, helping companies navigate mergers and acquisitions, using all the knowledge she'd gained about corporate warfare. It was small at first, but Roman connected her with clients, and Vivienne was good, better than good. Within weeks, she had 3 major clients. Within a month, she'd successfully negotiated 2 deals that saved her clients millions. She was becoming someone independent of Roman, someone with her own reputation, someone Ethan would have to respect even if he hated her. The night before they left for New York, Roman called her to his office. Last chance, he said. We can postpone if you're not ready. Vivienne looked at herself in the reflection of his window. She'd changed so much. Hair sleek, clothes expensive, posture confident. But it was the eyes that were different, harder, colder. I'm ready, she said. You're sure? I've spent 6 months becoming someone new, someone powerful, someone who doesn't need Ethan's approval or love or anything else. Vivienne turned to face Roman. Tomorrow night, I'm going to walk into that gala on your arm, and Ethan's going to realize he made the biggest mistake of his life. Roman studied her face, then slowly smiled. Good, because I have a surprise for you. What kind of surprise? The kind that makes this more than just a social appearance. Roman pulled out a folder, handed it to her. Lawrence's consortium is moving forward. We're launching the hostile takeover of Mercer Holdings next week. But first we need something. Vivienne opened the folder. Inside was a contract, a major shipping deal between Mercer Holdings and one of Roman's legitimate companies. I don't understand, she said. That contract is worth $200 million over 5 years. Ethan needs it desperately. His board's demanding new revenue streams. Roman's smile was sharp. Tomorrow night at the gala, you're going to negotiate that contract with him, face to face. Vivienne's blood went cold. You want me to negotiate with Ethan? I want you to destroy him professionally while smiling. Roman's voice was hard. You're going to offer him that contract. Give him hope. Make him think he's saved. Then right before he signs, you're going to change the terms in a way that benefits us and cripples him. He'll never agree to that. He will, because by then his board will be desperate, and desperate men make stupid choices. Roman leaned forward. This is your test, Vivienne. Can you sit across from the man who destroyed you and calmly negotiate his destruction? Can you be professional when everything inside you wants to scream? Vivienne looked at the contract, at Ethan's signature line waiting to be filled. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward. 6 months of training, 6 months of becoming someone new, 6 months of learning to separate emotion from strategy. I can do this, she said. I know you can. Roman stood up, extended his hand. Partners? Vivienne shook it. His grip was firm, possessive. Partners, she agreed. And somewhere in Manhattan, Ethan Mercer had no idea that his ex-wife was coming back. Not as a broken woman begging for closure, but as the person who would take everything he had left. The Grand Sovereign Hotel blazed with light like a cathedral made of glass and gold. Every window glowed. Every chandelier sparkled. Manhattan's elite had descended in their finest armor, designer gowns and custom tuxedos and jewelry that cost more than most people made in a year. Vivienne stepped out of the black SUV and felt every eye turn toward her. The dress was midnight blue, custom Versace, cut low enough to be dangerous but high enough to be elegant. Diamonds at her throat that Roman had given her that morning. Hair swept up to show the curve of her neck. Heels that made her tall enough to look most men in the eye. She looked like money, like power, like someone who belonged here. Roman offered his arm. He was in a black tuxedo that probably cost more than a luxury car. His presence alone made security guards straighten, made other guests step aside without realizing they were doing it. Ready? He asked quietly. Vivienne's heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe, but her voice came out steady. Yes. They walked inside together. The ballroom was massive. 3 stories of marble and crystal and enough champagne to fill a swimming pool. An orchestra played something classical. Waitstaff glided through crowds carrying trays of caviar and tiny perfect desserts. And everywhere Vivienne looked, she saw people she used to know. Former friends who'd stopped calling after the divorce. Business associates who'd sided with Ethan. Society women who'd whispered about her behind their hands when she'd shown up in the rain that night. None of them recognized her. She watched their eyes pass over her face without a flicker of recognition. Watched them assess her dress and her diamonds and Roman's possessive hand on her waist. Watched them calculate her worth and come up with numbers that mattered. You're smiling, Roman murmured. Am I? Like a shark. His voice held approval. Good. Stay sharp. Ethan's here. Vivienne's smile didn't falter, but her pulse spiked. Where? 10 o'clock. By the bar. With Madison. Vivienne turned slowly, casually. like she was just scanning the room. There, Ethan looked exactly the same. Expensive suit, perfect hair, that smile he used on clients and investors. Madison stood beside him in something white and virginal. They were talking to a cluster of board members from Mercer Holdings. He looked comfortable, happy, successful. Like the past year and a half had been good to him. Vivienne's hands wanted to clench into fists. She forced them to relax. "Breathe," Roman said softly. "Remember what I taught you." She did. Slow breath in, slow breath out. Separate emotion from strategy. This wasn't personal anymore. This was business. "I'm fine," she said. "Then let's go say hello." Roman guided her across the ballroom. People moved out of their way automatically. Conversations paused as they passed. Everyone knew who Roman Castelli was. Everyone wondered who the woman on his arm was. They stopped directly behind Ethan. "Mercer," Roman said. His voice cut through the conversation like a knife. "It's been too long." Ethan turned. His smile was already in place, professional, polished. Then he saw Vivienne, and the smile fractured. Just for a second, just long enough that she caught it. The flash of recognition, of shock, of something that might have been fear. "Roman?" Ethan recovered quickly, extended his hand. "I didn't know you'd be here." "I go where the business is." Roman shook his hand, firm grip. The kind that established dominance. "And you know my associate, Vera Castellano." Ethan's eyes locked on Vivienne's. She watched him search her face, saw the moment he connected the dots, saw the realization hit, but she just smiled, cool, professional. "Mr. Mercer." Her voice was smooth, gave nothing away. "A pleasure." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Have we met?" "I don't believe so." Vivienne tilted her head slightly. "Though I've heard wonderful things about Mercer Holdings. Very impressive company." Madison stepped forward, all bleached teeth and territorial energy. "I'm Madison Hayes, Ethan's fiancée." "Congratulations." Vivienne's smile didn't reach her eyes. "What a lovely ring!" The diamond was huge, obscene, probably cost more than Vivienne's entire wardrobe used to be worth. "Ethan has excellent taste," Madison said. Then she looked at Roman. "Mr. Castelli, such an honor to meet you. Ethan's told me so much about your business ventures." "Has he?" Roman's voice was flat, bored. "How nice." The board members were watching this exchange with barely concealed interest. Office politics and social maneuvering were blood sport at this level. "We should talk," Ethan said to Roman. His voice was tight, controlled. "About the shipping contract." "Later." Roman's hand tightened on Vivienne's waist. "First, I'd like a drink." "Vera?" "Champagne," she said. They walked away, left Ethan standing there with his fiancée and his board members, and the slow dawning realization that his ex-wife had just walked back into his life on the arm of the most dangerous man in America. Vivienne didn't look back. "You did well," Roman said quietly as they reached the bar. "He knows it's me." "Of course he does, but he can't prove it, and he can't do anything about it." Roman ordered their drinks. "Now comes the hard part." "What's that?" "Making him beg." "Opa." An hour later, Roman engineered a private meeting in one of the hotel's conference rooms. Just the four of them. Ethan, Madison, Roman, Vivienne. The room was corporate elegant. Long table, leather chairs, windows overlooking the city. Ethan sat across from Vivienne, Madison beside him looking confused about why she'd been included. Roman at the head of the table like a king holding court. "Let's talk business," Roman said. Ethan pulled out a folder. "The shipping contract. $200 million over 5 years. Your company provides logistics for our international expansion. We provide guaranteed volume and publicity." "That's the basic framework." Roman glanced at Vivienne. "My associate has reviewed the details. She has some concerns." Vivienne opened her own folder, met Ethan's eyes directly. "The revenue projections are optimistic. Unrealistic, actually. You're assuming market growth that hasn't materialized in 3 years." Ethan's voice was cold. "Those projections are based on industry standards." "Industry standards from 2019. We're in a different economy now." Vivienne slid a document across the table. "These are revised projections based on current market conditions. You're overextended by approximately 40%. Madison frowned. Ethan, what is she talking about? Nothing, Ethan snapped. Then to Vivienne, your analysis is flawed. Is it? Vivienne pulled out another document. Because I also have your Q3 financials, the ones you haven't released publicly yet, the ones showing declining revenue in 4 of your 6 divisions. The room went dead silent. Ethan's face turned white. How did you get those? Does it matter? Vivienne's smile was razor sharp. The point is, Mercer Holdings needs this contract desperately. Your board knows it, your investors know it, and now we know it. So what? Ethan's voice shook with barely controlled rage. You're going to blackmail me? Blackmail is such an ugly word. Roman leaned back in his chair. We prefer to call it leverage. You need something from us. We need something from you. Let's negotiate. Madison looked between them. Ethan, maybe we should be quiet, Ethan said without looking at her. Madison's face flushed red, but she shut her mouth. Vivienne felt a flash of something. Not quite sympathy, but recognition. That had been her once. Silenced, dismissed, treated like decoration. Here's the deal, Roman said. We'll give you the contract. Full terms. $200 million. Everything your board wants. Ethan's eyes narrowed. In exchange for what? Seats on your board, 3 of them, people we choose. Roman's voice was casual, like he was discussing the weather. Plus first right of refusal on any future acquisitions, and quarterly financial transparency. You want to control my company? Ethan stood up. Absolutely not. Then don't sign. Roman shrugged. I'm sure your board will understand when the deal falls through. I'm sure your investors won't panic when your stock drops another 20%. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a lifeline. Roman's voice went hard. Take it or drown, I don't care which. Ethan looked at Vivienne, really looked at her, and she watched him realize something. This was personal. This wasn't just business. This was revenge wrapped in corporate paperwork. It's you, he said quietly. Vivienne. Madison's head snapped up. What? This is my ex-wife. Ethan's voice was shaking. She changed her name, changed her face. But it's her. I don't know what you're talking about. Vivienne's voice was perfectly calm. My name is Vera Castellano. We've never met before tonight. Bullshit. Ethan slammed his hands on the table. You're doing this because I left you, because you can't move on. If I were her, Vivienne said softly, I'd be doing this because you humiliated me, because you threw away 5 years like they meant nothing, because you taught me that loyalty is weakness and love is a lie. The mask slipped, just for a second. Ethan saw it. I knew it. But I'm not her. Vivienne stood up, smoothed her dress. I'm someone who sees a profitable business opportunity and knows how to exploit it. Nothing more. She walked to the door, paused, looked back at Ethan. You have 72 hours to accept our terms, she said. After that, we move on to other opportunities. And your board finds out exactly how deep your financial problems go. Then she left. Roman followed a moment later, left Ethan and Madison alone in the conference room. In the hallway, Vivienne's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her sides. That was perfect, Roman said. He knows. Doesn't matter. He can't prove it. And even if he could, what's he going to do? Tell people his ex-wife came back from the dead to destroy him? Roman smiled. That makes him look weak, paranoid. He won't risk it. What if he doesn't sign? He will. Roman's voice was certain. Because in 48 hours, his CFO is going to recommend it. And his CFO is someone we own. Vivienne stopped walking. What? I told you. I've been planning this for months. Roman's eyes were cold. Marcus wasn't the only person stealing from me. He was stealing for Ethan, feeding him information about my operations. They've been working together for over a year. The world tilted sideways. Ethan's been spying on you? Vivienne's voice came out hollow. Since before you started working for me. Apparently he recognized you from news coverage when I first brought you into the organization, paid Marcus to keep tabs on us, report back on what we were planning. Roman's smile was vicious. But Marcus has been working for me longer than he's been working for Ethan. Everything he reported was exactly what I wanted Ethan to know. Vivienne's mind was racing. You've been playing him this whole time. We've been playing him, Roman corrected. Every move you made, every skill you learned, every piece of information you gathered, all of it led here, to this moment, where Ethan has no choice but to sign over control of his company or watch it collapse. It was brilliant, ruthless, perfect. But something felt wrong. "Why didn't you tell me?" Vivienne asked. "About Marcus, about Ethan spying. Because I needed your reactions to be genuine. If you'd known Ethan was watching, you would have played differently. Been more cautious." Roman's voice was matter-of-fact. "I needed him to see you grow, see you become powerful, see you become mine." That word again. Mine. Like she was property, an asset, a tool Roman had sharpened and pointed at his enemies. So everything, Vivienne's voice was shaking. The training, the meetings, bringing me to New York, all of it was manipulation. All of it was preparation. Roman's hand reached for her face. She jerked back. "Vivienne, don't call me that." Her voice was sharp. "You just spent 10 minutes telling Ethan I'm Vera Castellano. Make up your mind." "You're upset." "I'm realizing I traded one cage for another." Vivienne laughed, and it sounded broken. "Ethan controlled me with love. You control me with revenge. What's the difference?" "The difference is I made you powerful." Roman's voice went hard. "I gave you everything you needed to destroy the man who hurt you. And you're angry about the method?" "I'm angry you lied." "I withheld information strategically. That's not lying. That's business." "It's manipulation." Vivienne stepped back. "You used me. Used my pain, my anger, shaped me into whatever you needed to accomplish your goals." "Yes." Roman's voice was flat, honest, because that's what power looks like. That's what it takes to win. "And what happens after we win? After Ethan signs that contract and you own his company, what happens to me?" Roman was quiet for a long moment. "You stay," he said finally, "as my partner. We build an empire together." "Your empire, not mine. Ours." Roman moved closer. "Vivienne, I gave you a choice 6 months ago. Work with me or walk away. You chose this. You chose power over safety. Don't pretend you're innocent now." He was right. She had chosen this, but she'd chosen it thinking she was becoming her own person, not realizing she was just trading one master for another. "I need air," Vivienne said. She walked away before Roman could stop her. Found a terrace. Empty. Cold. The city sprawled below like a circuit board made of lights. Her phone buzzed. Text from a number she didn't recognize. "We need to talk. Ethan." Vivienne stared at the message. She should delete it, should tell Roman, should follow the plan. Instead, she typed back. "Where?" They met in Central Park. 3 a.m. The walking paths were empty except for a few homeless people and late-night joggers who didn't make eye contact. Ethan was waiting on a bench near Bethesda Fountain. No Madison, no security, just him in his tuxedo jacket looking exhausted. Vivienne sat down on the opposite end, left space between them. For a long time, neither spoke. "I looked for you," Ethan said finally, "after you disappeared, for months." "Why?" "Because I felt guilty." He laughed bitterly. "Shocking, I know, but I did. You didn't deserve what I did." "No, I didn't." Vivienne's voice was cold. "I was going to apologize, maybe try to make it right." Ethan turned to look at her. "But you'd vanished, changed your name, disappeared completely. After a while, I stopped looking and moved on with Madison." "Yeah." Ethan rubbed his face. "She was there. She understood the business. She didn't ask for things I couldn't give. Things like honesty, loyalty, basic human decency. Things like normalcy, a quiet life." Ethan's voice rose. "You wanted me home for dinner, wanted anniversaries and romance and all this emotional labor I didn't have energy for. Madison doesn't care if I work 80 hours a week. She has her own life. How nice for you both." Ethan stood up, started pacing. "You want to know the truth? Fine, I'm terrified. Roman Castelli is circling my company like a vulture. My board is panicking. My investors are threatening to pull out. And now I find out my ex-wife is working for him, planning my destruction." "You're not wrong. So what's your end game? Take my company? Leave me bankrupt? Make me suffer the way you suffered? Vivienne thought about that, about what she actually wanted. 6 months ago, the answer would have been simple. Yes, all of that. Make him hurt. But now? I don't know anymore, she admitted. Ethan stopped pacing. What? I spent 6 months becoming someone new, someone powerful, someone you couldn't hurt. Vivienne looked up at him. And I succeeded. You can't hurt me anymore, Ethan. You're irrelevant. Then why are you here? Because Roman lied to me, used me, and I'm starting to realize that destroying you won't fix what's broken inside me. Ethan sat back down, closer this time. We're both trapped, aren't we? You're trapped by Roman. I'm trapped by my own mistakes. Don't! Vivienne's voice was sharp. Don't try to bond with me. We're not the same. Aren't we? You gave up yourself for Roman's plans. I gave up you for my company. Ethan's voice was quiet. We both sacrificed the wrong things. Vivienne wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because he was right. What do you want from me? She asked. Help! Ethan's voice was desperate. Tell me what Roman's really planning. Give me a way to fight back, please. Why would I do that? Because despite everything, we were married for 5 years. That has to count for something. Vivienne laughed. It sounded ugly. You told me those 5 years didn't matter, that I was convenient until someone better came along. I was angry and stupid, and I've regretted it every day since. Ethan grabbed her hand. She let him. Vivienne, I'm sorry. Truly. I destroyed something good because I was too arrogant to see its value. She looked at their hands, his touching hers, for the first time in over a year, and felt absolutely nothing. No love, no hate, no anger, no satisfaction, just emptiness. It's too late, she said softly. Even if I wanted to help you, and I don't, I can't. Roman owns me now. He doesn't own you. You're not property. Aren't I? Vivienne pulled her hand away. He shaped me, trained me, pointed me at you like a weapon. What's that if not ownership? It's manipulation, and you're smart enough to see through it. Ethan leaned closer. Walk away. From him. From this whole plan. Start over somewhere new. And go back to being nobody? Back to bartending and hiding? Back to being yourself. Vivienne stood up. I don't know who that is anymore. Her phone buzzed. Text from Roman. Where are you? She didn't answer. I have to go, she said. Vivienne, wait. Don't contact me again. Her voice was final. And don't sign that contract. Whatever Roman's planning, it's worse than you think. Then she walked away. Left Ethan sitting alone in Central Park at 3 a.m, probably wondering if any of this was real. Vivienne wondered the same thing. Yet, she went back to the hotel. Roman was waiting in her suite, sitting in the dark. You met with him, he said. Not a question. Yes. And? And nothing. I told him not to sign the contract. Roman stood up slowly. You what? I warned him. Told him you're planning something worse than a hostile takeover. Vivienne's voice was steady, calm. Because you are, aren't you? The contract is just the beginning. Of course it is. Roman's voice was dangerous, quiet. Once we control his board, we strip the company, sell the assets, leave him with nothing but debt and legal liability. And me? What was my role in this? To be the knife he never saw coming. Roman moved closer, to destroy him from the inside while I destroyed him from the outside. So I was just a tool, a weapon you could discard when you were done. You were supposed to be my partner. Roman's hand shot out, grabbed her arm. But you're too soft, too emotional. You still care about him. I don't care about Ethan. Vivienne tried to pull away. Roman's grip tightened. But I care about being used, about being lied to, about being treated like property. I made you. Roman's voice was hard, cold. You were nothing when I found you, a bartender hiding from her past. I gave you power, purpose, everything you wanted. You gave me your power, your purpose. Vivienne met his eyes, and I was too angry to see the difference. Roman's other hand came up, gripped her throat, not choking, but threatening. You're mine, he he said softly. You became mine the moment you accepted my offer. There's no walking away from that. Watch me. Vivienne drove her knee into his stomach. Roman grunted, released her. She ran for the door. Didn't make it. Roman's hand caught her hair, yanked her back. She hit the floor hard. Stars exploded across her vision. You think you can betray me? Roman's voice was shaking with rage. After everything I've done for you? You didn't do it for me? Vivienne tasted blood. You did it to yourself. I was just convenient. Roman pulled out a phone, made a call. Get up here. Now. 30 seconds later, 2 of his men came through the door, the same ones who'd been following her for months, protecting her, or watching her. Take her to the car, Roman said. His voice was back to calm, controlled. We're going back to Chicago, now. Roman, wait. You made your choice. His eyes were dead, empty. You chose Ethan over me, over power, over everything we built. I chose myself, Vivienne said. Then you chose wrong. The men grabbed her arms, started dragging her toward the door. Vivienne's mind raced. She was trapped. No phone, no weapons, no allies. Just Roman's cold fury and the slow realization that she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Not in betraying him, in ever trusting him in the first place. The elevator doors opened. They dragged her inside. Roman followed. Hit the button for the parking garage. As they descended, Vivienne looked at her reflection in the polished doors. The woman staring back was a stranger. Expensive dress, diamond necklace, perfect hair. But her eyes were terrified, just like they'd been the night she stood in the rain watching Ethan kiss someone else. She'd traded one nightmare for another, and this time there was nowhere left to run. The elevator reached the parking garage. The doors opened onto concrete and shadows and a black SUV waiting with its engine running. Get in, Roman said. Vivienne looked at the SUV, then at Roman, then at the 2 men holding her arms. This was it. The moment where she either became Roman's prisoner forever or did something desperate. She chose desperate. Vivienne drove her elbow into the first man's throat. He choked, released her. She spun, kicked the second man's knee, heard it crack. He went down screaming. Then she ran. Barefoot in her evening gown, diamonds still at her throat. She ran through the parking garage toward the exit ramp. Behind her, Roman shouted orders. Footsteps echoed, more of his men appearing from nowhere. Vivienne hit the street at full speed. Manhattan at 4 a.m. was almost empty. A few taxis, some delivery trucks, nobody who would help. She ran anyway, made it 3 blocks before a hand grabbed her shoulder, spun her around. Not Roman's men. Ethan. What? Vivienne gasped for air. How? I followed you from the park. Waited outside the hotel. Ethan looked past her. They're coming. We need to move. Now. He pulled her toward a car. His car. A BMW with the engine running. Vivienne hesitated. Looked back. Saw Roman's SUV turning the corner. Saw his men spreading out. Saw Roman himself standing under a streetlight. Watching. Waiting. Vivienne! Ethan yanked her arm. Get in the fucking car! She made a choice. Jumped into the BMW. Ethan floored it. They tore through empty Manhattan streets with Roman's convoy right behind them. Tires screaming, lights flashing red through intersections. Where are we going? Vivienne asked. Away from him. Ethan's hands were white on the steering wheel. As far away as possible. He'll find us. He has resources, connections, people everywhere. Then we disappear again. Ethan glanced at her. Together this time. Vivienne looked at him. At the man who'd destroyed her life 18 months ago, who'd humiliated her, abandoned her, taught her that love was a lie. Now he was her only chance at survival. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Behind them, Roman's SUV was gaining. They had minutes at most. There's a safe house, Ethan said. Upstate. Somewhere he can't find us. We hide there. Figure out our next move. And Madison? She can fend for herself. Ethan's voice was hard. I'm done sacrificing the people who actually matter for the ones who don't. Vivienne wanted to laugh, or scream, or both. She'd spent 6 months becoming someone powerful enough to destroy Ethan Mercer, and now she was running away with him, trying to survive the monster she'd helped. The BMW's engine screamed as they hit the highway, doing 90. Behind them, Roman's convoy was 3 cars deep, black SUVs with tinted windows and men inside who wouldn't hesitate to put bullets through civilian traffic to get what they wanted. Vivienne twisted in her seat, watched the headlights gaining. "They're getting closer." "I know." Ethan's voice was tight, controlled. He weaved between a semi-truck and a minivan. Horns blared. "There's a gun in the glove box." She opened it, found a Glock 19, checked the magazine, fully loaded. "Since when do you carry?" she asked. "Since I started doing business with people who carry." Ethan took an exit ramp at 60, tires screaming. Roman's not the only dangerous man in New York. The exit led to local roads, darker, narrower, trees on both sides turning the highway into a tunnel. One of the SUVs followed, the other 2 kept going, probably circling around to cut them off. "They're splitting up," Vivienne said. "Good. Better odds." Ethan killed the headlights, drove by moonlight alone. "Can you shoot?" "I don't know, never tried." "Tonight's a good night to learn." The SUV behind them accelerated, pulled alongside. The passenger window rolled down. Vivienne saw the gun barrel a second before it fired. "Down!" Ethan yanked the wheel right. The BMW skidded onto gravel. Bullets punched through the rear windshield. Safety glass exploded inward. Vivienne covered her face, felt cuts opening on her arms. Ethan straightened the wheel, floored it. The BMW surged forward into darkness. Behind them, the SUV's headlights blazed back to life. Hunting. "Shoot back," Ethan said. "Ethan." Vivienne looked at the gun in her hands, at the SUV gaining ground, at the men inside who'd been protecting her yesterday and would kill her tonight because Roman had given the order. She rolled down her window, leaned out, wind tearing at her hair, her dress, aimed at the SUV's windshield, pulled the trigger. The recoil nearly broke her wrist. The shot went wide, hit the road. Sparks flew up. "Again!" Ethan shouted. Vivienne steadied herself, breathed, aimed, fired. This time the bullet hit. Spiderwebbed the windshield. The SUV swerved, recovered, then returned fire. Bullets hammered the BMW's trunk, punched through metal like paper. One round passed so close to Vivienne's head she felt the heat. She ducked back inside, heart hammering, hands shaking so hard she nearly dropped the gun. "They're not trying to scare us," she gasped. "Roman doesn't scare people anymore." Ethan's voice was grim. "He eliminates them. They hit a sharp curve." Ethan took it too fast. The BMW's rear end fishtailed. For a second, Vivienne thought they'd spin out, hit the trees, die in a fireball of twisted metal. But Ethan corrected, kept them on the road. Barely. The SUV wasn't as lucky. It took the curve wide. Tires screamed. It clipped a tree. Not hard enough to stop it, but hard enough to slow it down. Ethan didn't waste the opening. He accelerated, put distance between them. "How far to this safe house?" Vivienne asked. 20 miles? Maybe less." Ethan checked the rearview mirror. "If we can lose them in the back roads, we might make it. And if we can't, then we improvise." They turned onto a smaller road. No streetlights, no houses, just forest pressing in on both sides like the world was trying to swallow them whole. The SUV's headlights appeared behind them again, relentless. Then ahead, blocking the road, 2 more SUVs sat sideways, headlights blazing, men standing in front with rifles. A roadblock. "Shit!" Ethan slammed the brakes. The BMW skidded, stopped 20 feet from the barricade. Behind them, the damaged SUV pulled up, blocked the retreat. They were boxed in. Roman stepped out of the center vehicle. No hurry, no weapon visible. Just him in his tuxedo jacket looking calm and deadly. "Get out of the car!" he called. His voice carried in the dark. "Both of you." Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. "We could ram through. They'd shoot us before we got 10 feet. Vivienne looked at the men with rifles. Professional. Experienced. "We're done running." "So what do we do?" Vivienne met his eyes. "We talk." She opened the door, stepped out, still barefoot, still in her ruined evening gown, diamonds at her throat catching moonlight. Ethan followed, stayed close. Roman walked toward them. His men flanked him but kept their distance, giving him space, showing respect, or fear. "You ran," Roman said. His voice was conversational, like they were discussing the weather. "I'm disappointed." You tried to kidnap me, Vivienne said. I tried to protect you from yourself. Roman stopped 5 feet away. You made a mistake, warned Ethan, betrayed our agreement. I was taking you somewhere safe until you calmed down. By force. Sometimes people need to be saved from their own stupidity. Roman's eyes shifted to Ethan. And you. Couldn't resist playing hero, could you? Had to swoop in and rescue your ex-wife. She needed help. Ethan's voice was steady. From you. Roman laughed. From me? I gave her everything. Power, purpose, a path to destroy you, and she threw it away for what? Sentimentality? Guilt? For freedom, Vivienne said quietly. There's no such thing. Roman's smile disappeared. You're either powerful or you're prey. You chose prey. I chose to stop being your weapon. Then you chose to die. Roman's voice went cold, flat. Because I can't let you walk away knowing what you know. My operations, my connections, my plans. You're a liability now. The men with rifles raised their weapons. Red laser dots appeared on Vivienne's chest, on Ethan's. Last chance, Roman said. Come back with me. Accept your role. Live. Or? Vivienne asked. Or I kill Ethan right here, right now. Make you watch. Then take you back anyway. Roman's eyes were empty. Dead. Your choice. Vivienne's mind raced. She still had the Glock. But 6 men with rifles versus 1 woman with a pistol wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Unless. What if I have something you want? She said. Roman raised an eyebrow. Like what? Information? About Ethan's company? About the people you haven't compromised yet? The board members who are still loyal to him? Vivienne took a breath. Let him go. I'll tell you everything. Stay with you willingly. Help you finish what we started. Vivienne, no, Ethan started. Shut up. She didn't look at him, kept her eyes on Roman. You said I was valuable. Prove it. Take the information. Let him live. He's not a threat to you anyway. Roman studied her face. You'd trade yourself for him? After everything he did to you? I'd trade myself to stop more bloodshed. Vivienne's voice was steady. You taught me to be strategic. This is strategic. You get what you want. Ethan lives. Everyone wins. Except you. I stopped caring about winning 6 months ago. Vivienne stepped forward, closer to Roman. I just want this to end. Roman was quiet for a long moment, calculating, weighing. Then he nodded to his men. Lower your weapons. The red dots disappeared. Come here, Roman said softly. Vivienne walked toward him. Each step felt like drowning, like choosing her own grave. When she was close enough to touch, Roman's hand came up, cupped her face, almost gentle. You're lying, he whispered. Vivienne's blood went cold. You think I can't see it? Roman's grip tightened. You think I don't know you well enough by now? You're not trading yourself, you're buying time, planning something. I'm not... Roman's other hand moved so fast she didn't see it, pulled a knife from inside his jacket, pressed it against her throat. Tell me the truth, he said. Or I open your throat and make Ethan watch you bleed out. The knife was cold, sharp. Vivienne felt it bite into her skin, felt warmth trickle down her neck. Behind her, Ethan shouted something, started forward. One of Roman's men hit him with a rifle butt. He went down hard. The truth, Roman repeated. Vivienne met his eyes. I wanted you to get close enough to kill. Then she drove the Glock upward, jammed it under his chin. Roman froze. Tell your men to drop their weapons, Vivienne said. Her voice was shaking, but her hand was steady. Or I paint the trees with your brain. Roman's smile was slow, approving. There she is. The woman I trained. Weapons down now. Roman didn't move. If you pull that trigger, my men kill both of you before your body hits the ground. Maybe, Vivienne pressed the barrel harder, but you'll still be dead. And that's supposed to scare me? Roman's voice was soft, almost tender. I've been ready to die since I was 16 years old. Death doesn't frighten me, Vivienne. It's an old friend. Then you won't mind meeting him tonight. Roman's eyes searched hers. You won't do it. You're not a killer. You made me one. Vivienne's finger tightened on the trigger. You spent 6 months teaching me to be ruthless, to separate emotion from strategy, to do whatever it takes to win. She smiled. It felt like glass. Congratulations. I learned. For the first time, Roman looked uncertain. Vivienne, he said carefully, think about what you're doing. I'm thinking about how you used me, lied to me, tried to kidnap me, threatened to kill someone in front of me. Her voice was rising, getting louder. I'm thinking about how you're exactly like Ethan, just a different flavor of the same poison. I'm nothing like him. You're worse, Vivienne's voice broke. Because at least Ethan was honest about being selfish. You pretended to care, pretended we were partners. But I was always just a tool to you, a weapon you could point at your enemies. Roman's jaw tightened. I gave you power. You gave me your power, Vivienne was shouting now. Everything I learned, everything I became, it was all on your terms, for your purposes. I was never free, just a different kind of prisoner. Then pull the trigger, Roman said quietly. If that's what you really think, kill me. Prove you're not my weapon anymore. Vivienne's hand was shaking. The gun trembled against Roman's skin. She wanted to do it, wanted to end this, end him, end everything that had led to this moment. But her finger wouldn't move. I knew it, Roman said. You're still soft, still weak, still... Ethan's voice cut through the darkness. Vivienne, look at me. She did. Ethan was on his knees, blood running from his temple where the rifle had hit him, but his eyes were clear. You're not weak, he said, and you're not his weapon. You're the strongest person I've ever met, and you don't have to kill him to prove it. He won't stop, Vivienne said. Tears were running down her face. If I let him live, he'll hunt us forever. Maybe. Ethan struggled to his feet. One of Roman's men moved to stop him. Roman held up a hand. Let him stand. But if you kill him, you become exactly what he tried to make you, a killer, someone who solves problems with violence. Is that who you want to be? I don't know who I want to be anymore. Vivienne's voice was breaking. I don't know anything except I'm tired, so tired of fighting, of running, of being something I'm not. Then stop, Ethan said gently. Put the gun down. Walk away. Choose something different. And let Roman win? There's no winning here. Ethan took a step closer, slowly. Just survival, just choosing what kind of person you want to be when this is over. Vivienne looked at Roman, at the man who'd promised her power and delivered prison, who'd taught her to be ruthless, and now faced that ruthlessness himself. You're right, she said to him. I'm not a killer. She lowered the gun. Roman's hand shot out, grabbed her wrist, twisted. The Glock fell to the ground. Then his knife came up, aimed at her heart. Time slowed. Vivienne saw the blade, saw Roman's face twisted with rage, and something that might have been betrayal, saw her death coming. Then Ethan tackled Roman from the side. They went down together, hit the ground hard. The knife went flying. Roman's men raised their rifles. Vivienne screamed, "No!" But they hesitated, looking to Roman for orders. And Roman was too busy fighting Ethan. They rolled across the dirt road, punching, clawing, two men fighting like animals. Ethan got on top, drove his fist into Roman's face. Once, twice. Blood exploded from Roman's nose. Roman bucked, threw Ethan off, scrambled for the knife. Vivienne saw it first. She dove. Her fingers closed around the handle just as Roman reached for it. They both froze. Vivienne on the ground, knife in her hand, Roman standing over her, his men with rifles trained on Ethan. Give me the knife, Roman said. His voice was thick with blood. Or they kill him. Vivienne looked at the weapon. At Roman, at Ethan struggling to his feet, at the choice that would define everything that came next. 6 months ago, she would have given up, would have handed over the knife, would have chosen safety over risk. But she wasn't that woman anymore. No, Vivienne said. She stood up, knife in her hand, pointed at Roman. Tell your men to stand down, she said, or we all die here. Right now, together. Roman's smile was terrible, proud and furious at the same time. You finally learned. I learned from the best. Vivienne's voice was steady now. Now call them off. Roman looked at her for a long moment, reading her face, measuring her resolve. Then he raised his hand. Stand down. The rifles lowered. All the way down, Vivienne said. On the ground. Kick them away. Roman nodded. His men complied. Weapons clattered to the dirt. Vivienne didn't lower the knife. Car keys. All of them. Now. Roman pulled his keys from his pocket, tossed them to her. His men did the same. Ethan gathered them up, threw them into the forest. They'd take hours to find in the dark. Now what? Roman asked. You're going to walk away? Run again? I'll find you. I know. Vivienne backed toward the BMW, kept the knife pointed at Roman. But by the time you do, I'll be ready, really ready. Not your weapon, not Ethan's wife, just me, and you won't recognize what I've become. I already don't, Roman said softly. Vivienne and Ethan got in the BMW. The engine turned over, still running despite the bullet holes. As they pulled away, Vivienne looked back one last time. Roman stood in the middle of the road, blood on his face, surrounded by his disarmed men, watching her go. He didn't look angry. He looked impressed. They drove in silence for 10 miles, then 20. No pursuit, no headlights behind them. Finally, Ethan pulled over at a rest stop, empty except for a few long-haul truckers sleeping in their cabs. He turned off the engine, leaned back, closed his eyes. You saved my life, Vivienne said. You saved mine first. Ethan opened his eyes, looked at her. We're even. Are we? No. He laughed. It sounded exhausted. We're so far from even, I don't know where to start. Vivienne looked down at herself. Ruined dress, bare feet, blood on her arms and neck, diamonds still at her throat like a sick joke. I need to get these off, she said, started unclasping the necklace. Wait, Ethan stopped her hand. Keep them. You earned them. Roman gave them to me. So? They're worth maybe 200,000. Sell them, start over, build something new. Ethan's voice was quiet. You're going to need money, resources, if you're really planning to become something Roman won't recognize. I don't know what that is yet. Then figure it out. Ethan pulled back onto the road. But do it away from both of us. Away from Roman. Away from me. Find out who Vivienne Knox actually is when nobody's trying to control her. They drove another hour. Finally pulled up to a small house deep in the woods. No neighbors, no streetlights. Just a cabin with a porch and windows dark with dust. This is the safe house, Ethan said. They went inside. It was basic. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, bathroom, furniture that had seen better decades. But it was safe. Vivienne found the bathroom, stared at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was a stranger, hair wild, makeup smeared, eyes that had seen too much. She washed her face, washed the blood off her arms and neck, changed into clothes she found in a closet, jeans and a sweater that smelled like mothballs. When she came out, Ethan was on the couch, 2 glasses of whiskey on the coffee table. She sat beside him, took one, drank. It burned. What now? She asked. Now we wait. Ethan sipped his drink. Give it a few days, make sure Roman's not coming, then we figure out next steps. What are your next steps? I don't know. Ethan looked at her. My company's probably gone. Roman's going to finish what he started. Take it apart piece by piece. I'll be bankrupt by next month. You could fight back. With what? He owns my CFO. Probably half my board by now. I'm done. Ethan's voice was flat. I lost. We both lost, Vivienne said. Maybe. Ethan set down his glass. Or maybe we got a second chance to not make the same mistakes. What mistakes did you make? All of them. Ethan turned to face her. I chose power over people, work over you, success over happiness. And it got me exactly what I deserved. Nothing that matters. You have Madison. Had Madison. Pretty sure proposing to one woman while running away with another counts as breaking an engagement. He smiled bitterly. Besides, she was never real. Just another business arrangement. Like our marriage? No. Ethan's voice was firm. Our marriage was real. I just didn't realize it until after I destroyed it. Vivienne looked at him. Really looked. At the man who'd humiliated her, who'd thrown away 5 years like they meant nothing, who'd taught her that love was weakness. He looked smaller now, tired, human. I hated you, she said quietly, for so long. It's what kept me going, the anger, the need for revenge. And now? Now I just feel empty. Vivienne finished her whiskey. Like I spent so much energy on hating you that I forgot how to feel anything else. That's fair? Ethan poured them both more. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For everything, for the way it ended, for making you feel like you didn't matter. You mattered. You still matter. Don't! Vivienne held up a hand. Don't try to fix this with apologies. It's too late for that. Then what can I do? Nothing. She stood up. Just let me figure out who I am without you, without Roman, without anyone telling me what to be. Ethan nodded. I can do that. Vivienne went to one of the bedrooms, lay down on a bed that smelled like dust and time, stared at the ceiling. Her phone was gone, probably in Roman's possession. Her identity was compromised. Her plans were destroyed. She had nothing except the clothes on her back and $200,000 worth of diamonds. She was exactly where she'd been 18 months ago, alone, starting over, rebuilding from ashes. Except this time she knew the truth. Power was a lie. Love was a lie. Everything she'd been chasing was just smoke. The only thing real was survival. And Vivienne Knox was very, very good at surviving. Morning came gray and cold. Vivienne woke to the smell of coffee. She found Ethan in the kitchen. He'd somehow scrounged up bread and eggs, made breakfast. Eat, he said. We need to talk. They sat at the small table, ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Ethan pulled out a laptop. I've been thinking. About? How to stop Roman. He turned the screen toward her. You said he owns my CFO, that Marcus has been feeding him information. For over a year, that's what Roman told me. So Marcus knows everything. My company's vulnerabilities, my board's weaknesses, my financial problems. Ethan's eyes were sharp. But he doesn't know something changed. What changed? You. Ethan leaned forward. Roman thinks you're either dead or running. He doesn't know you're here, with me, helping me. I'm not helping you. Not yet. Ethan's smile was calculating, cold. But what if you did? What if we used Marcus the same way Roman used him? Feed him false information, make Roman think my company's weaker than it is, set a trap. Vivienne set down her fork. You want to fight back? I want to survive, same as you. Ethan's voice was intense. Roman's going to come after both of us eventually. You know it. I know it. We can run forever, and he'll still find us. Or we can turn the tables. How? By doing exactly what you and Roman were planning, but in reverse. Ethan pulled up financial documents. We make Roman overcommit. Make him think my company's ripe for the taking. Let him pour resources into the hostile takeover. Then we expose everything. His criminal connections, his money laundering, his real identity. That would destroy him. Yes. Ethan met her eyes. Completely. Vivienne thought about it. About Roman standing in the road last night, blood on his face. That impressed smile. He'd taught her to be ruthless, to separate emotion from strategy, to do whatever it took to win. Maybe it was time to use those lessons. What would you need from me? She asked. Everything you know about his operations, his contacts, his weaknesses. Ethan's voice was steady. And your help executing the plan. You understand how he thinks, how he moves. You're the only advantage I have. And what do I get? Revenge. Real revenge. Not just destroying my company, but destroying the man who used you, who tried to own you. Ethan paused. And freedom. Once Roman's gone, you can actually start over. Build something real. Vivienne stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the forest was dense and dark. No signs of civilization, just trees and silence. She could say no, could walk away from both of them, from Roman and Ethan and all the poison they represented, or she could finish what she started. If we do this, she said slowly, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. To close this chapter, to make sure Roman can never come after me again. Fair enough. And after it's done, we're finished. You go your way, I go mine. No contact, no looking back. Agreed. Vivienne turned to face him. One more thing. If you betray me, If you try to use me the way Roman did, I will destroy you worse than anything I'm about to do to him." Ethan didn't flinch. "I believe you." "Then we have a deal." They shook hands, formal, businesslike, and somewhere in New York, Roman Castelli had no idea that the two people he'd underestimated most were about to become his worst nightmare. Not separately. Together. The student and the ex-husband. The weapon he'd sharpened and the man she'd been sharpened for. United against the monster who'd created them both. This wasn't going to be clean. It wasn't going to be easy. But it was going to be final. One way or another, someone was walking away from this. And Vivienne Knox was done being the one who ran. The plan took 3 weeks to build. 3 weeks of Vivienne and Ethan working 18-hour days in that dusty cabin. Mapping Roman's empire. Identifying weaknesses. Building a trap sophisticated enough to catch the most dangerous man in America. Vivienne knew Roman's operations inside and out. Every shell corporation. Every money laundering route. Every politician on his payroll. 6 months of working beside him had taught her where the bodies were buried, literally and figuratively. Ethan knew corporate warfare, knew how to manipulate markets and board members, knew which journalists would run a story and which federal prosecutors were hungry enough to take on organized crime. Together they built something Roman would never see coming. The first move was Marcus. Vivienne called him from a burner phone, used the voice she'd perfected over 6 months. Cool, professional, loyal. "It's Vera," she said when he answered. "I need to talk." Marcus's voice was cautious. "Roman's looking for you. Says you betrayed him." "Roman's paranoid. I didn't betray anyone." Vivienne kept her tone steady. "I got spooked when things got violent. Needed some air, but I'm ready to come back. Finish what we started with Mercer Holdings." Silence. Marcus was calculating, trying to decide if this was real. "Where are you?" he asked finally. "Somewhere safe, but I have information about Ethan's company. New vulnerabilities Roman can exploit." She paused. "I'll trade it for a meeting. Just you. No Roman. Not yet. I need to know where I stand first." More silence. Then, "Tomorrow? Noon. The warehouse on Pier 47. Come alone." "I will." Vivienne hung up, looked at Ethan across the table. He took the bait. "You sure he won't tell Roman?" "He will eventually, but not immediately. Marcus is greedy. He'll want to hear what I have first, see if he can leverage it." Vivienne's smile was cold. "That gives us maybe 6 hours before Roman knows I'm back. 6 hours to spring the trap. 6 hours to end this." The warehouse was exactly what Vivienne expected. Concrete and rust and the smell of salt water. One entrance, no windows. Perfect place for a meeting nobody was supposed to walk away from. She went in alone, dressed in the same black clothes she'd worn working for Roman, hair pulled back, no jewelry except the diamond necklace she hadn't sold yet, wearing it like armor. Marcus was waiting inside, 2 men with him, armed, professional. "Vera." His smile was thin, nervous. "You look good for someone who's supposed to be dead." "Roman exaggerates." Vivienne walked closer, stopped 10 feet away. "I'm here. You're here. Let's talk." "First, the information. What do you have on Mercer Holdings?" "A lot." Vivienne pulled out a folder. Real documents, real financials. "Ethan's more desperate than Roman thinks. He's been cooking the books, hiding debt. If we move now, we can force bankruptcy in under a month." Marcus took the folder, flipped through it. His eyes widened. "This is solid." "I know." Vivienne crossed her arms. "So here's my offer. I give this to Roman, help finish the takeover. In exchange, I want protection and a bigger role. No more being treated like a tool." Roman doesn't negotiate. "Then Roman can watch Mercer rebuild while I take this information to one of his competitors." Vivienne's voice was hard. "I'm done being powerless. Either I'm a partner or I'm gone." Marcus studied her face. "You've changed." "I learned from the best." She took a step closer. "So what's it going to be? Do we make a deal or do I walk?" Marcus looked at his men. Some silent communication passed between them. Then he nodded. "I'll take you to Roman. You make your case to him directly." "Fine. Where is he?" "His compound, outside the city. Marcus gestured to the door. We'll drive. Vivienne followed them outside, into a black SUV that smelled like leather and gun oil. They drove for 40 minutes, through industrial areas, past empty lots, into the kind of nowhere that made bodies disappear. Marcus made a call, spoke in Italian. Vivienne caught enough to know he was reporting in, telling Roman she was here, asking for instructions. When he hung up, his expression had changed, harder, colder. Change of plans, he said. What kind of change? Roman wants to meet somewhere else, somewhere private. Marcus's smile was ugly. He wants to make sure you're really loyal, wants to test you. Vivienne's pulse spiked, but her voice stayed calm. Test me how? You'll see. The SUV turned down a dirt road. Trees pressed in on both sides. Vivienne looked for landmarks, for escape routes. Saw nothing useful. Her hand moved to her pocket. The burner phone was there. One button would trigger the signal. But not yet. She needed to be sure. They stopped at another warehouse. Smaller, more isolated. The kind of place screams wouldn't carry. Marcus got out. Let's go. Vivienne followed, every instinct screaming at her to run, but she walked through those doors anyway. Inside, the space was mostly empty, concrete floor, metal support beams, and in the center, a single chair with zip ties attached to the armrests. Roman stood beside it. No smile, no warmth, just cold assessment. Vera, he said, or should I call you Vivienne now that we're being honest? She said nothing, just met his eyes. Marcus says you have information, says you want to make a deal. Roman walked toward her, slow, predatory. But I don't trust you anymore. You ran. You chose Ethan over me. So before we talk business, I need to know where your loyalty really lies. With myself, Vivienne said. Same as always. Wrong answer. Roman nodded to his men. Sit her down. They grabbed her arms. Vivienne fought, drove her elbow into one man's throat, kicked the other's knee. But there were too many. They forced her into the chair, zip-tied her wrists, pulled them tight enough to cut circulation. Roman crouched in front of her. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything. Where you've been, what you've been planning, whether Ethan's still alive. And if I don't, then I hurt you until you do. Roman's voice was soft, almost gentle. I don't want to, but I will. Because I can't have loose ends. Can't have people who know my secrets walking around free. Vivienne looked at him. At the man who'd promised her power and delivered prison, who'd taught her to be ruthless and now faced that ruthlessness himself. You already lost, she said quietly. What? You lost the moment you underestimated me. Vivienne smiled. The moment you thought I was still the broken woman you found in that bar. Still someone who could be controlled. Roman's expression darkened. What did you do? Everything you taught me. Vivienne's voice was steady, strong. I planned. I strategized. I separated emotion from business. And I built a trap good enough to catch you. You're bluffing, am I? Vivienne nodded toward the door. In about 30 seconds, federal agents are going to come through that door. They have warrants, evidence, everything they need to take apart your entire operation. Bullshit. But Roman's voice wavered, just slightly. The information I gave Marcus? It was real. But it was also bait. Every document was tagged, embedded with metadata that traces back to you, to your shell corporations, to your money laundering routes. Vivienne's smile widened, and Marcus has been wearing a wire this whole time. Marcus's hand went to his chest, felt the small device taped under his shirt. His face went white. She's lying, he said. I checked myself this morning. Nothing was there. Because I didn't activate it until you picked me up. Vivienne looked at Roman. Ethan's outside right now, broadcasting everything to the FBI. Every word you've said, every threat you've made. It's over. Roman stood up slowly. His hand moved to his jacket, to the gun holstered there. The doors exploded inward. FBI agents flooded the warehouse. Tactical gear, assault rifles. Commands shouted over each other. Everyone on the ground, hands visible. Don't move. Roman's men dropped their weapons, raised their hands, surrendered. But Roman didn't. He pulled his gun, aimed it at Vivienne's head. Nobody moves, he said. His voice was calm, controlled. Or I kill her right here. The agents froze, fingers on triggers, waiting for orders. Vivienne looked up at Roman, at the gun barrel inches from her face, at the man who'd shaped her into something new. "Do it," she said quietly. Roman's eyes flickered with surprise. "You taught me that power is everything, that survival is all that matters, that only the ruthless win." Vivienne's voice was steady. "So prove it. Pull the trigger. Show everyone you meant what you said." "Vivienne, do it!" she was shouting now. "Prove you're not just another man who talks about power but can't actually handle it when someone takes it from you." Roman's hand shook, just slightly. "You can't," Vivienne said, "because killing me makes you small, makes you look weak, makes you exactly what you always feared being, just another criminal who couldn't control the woman who got away." For a long moment, Roman just stared at her. Then slowly, he lowered the gun. "I should have killed you the night you tried to run," he said softly. "Yeah." Vivienne's voice was just as soft. "You should have." The FBI agents moved in, grabbed Roman, pulled his arms behind his back. Handcuffs clicked into place. As they led him away, Roman looked back one last time. "You won," he said. "No." Vivienne met his eyes. "I survived. There's a difference." Then he was gone, pushed into a waiting vehicle, disappeared into federal custody. An agent cut the zip ties on Vivienne's wrists, helped her stand. "You okay, ma'am?" "I'm fine." She walked outside on shaking legs. The sun was setting, painting the sky red and gold. Ethan was leaning against a car. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. "You took too long," he said. "I almost came in. Would have ruined everything." Vivienne's voice was hoarse. "Is it done? Did they get everything?" "Everything." Ethan showed her his phone. "Multiple recording files. FBI has enough to put Roman away for life. Maybe multiple lives." Vivienne nodded, felt nothing. Just emptiness where the rage used to be. "What about you?" she asked. "Your company?" "Gone. Roman's people already executed the hostile takeover. Mercer Holdings belongs to them now." Ethan's smile was bitter. "I'm bankrupt, destroyed. Everything I built is ashes." "I'm sorry." "Don't be, I earned it." He pushed off the car. "But I'm alive, free. That's more than I expected 3 weeks ago." They stood there as the FBI vehicles drove away, as the sun sank lower, as the day bled into night. "What now?" Ethan asked. "Now we disappear." Vivienne pulled out the diamond necklace, handed it to him. "Sell this, split the money, go our separate ways." "You don't want it?" "I don't want anything that came from him." She looked at the necklace. "Besides, you need it more than I do. Rebuilding takes capital." "What are you going to do?" Vivienne thought about it, about who she'd been and who she'd become and who she wanted to be. "I don't know yet." She smiled, small, real. "But I'm going to figure it out, without anyone telling me who to be." Ethan studied her face. "For what it's worth, I think you're going to be amazing." "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't try to fix us with compliments." Vivienne's voice was firm but not unkind. "We're not friends. We're not partners. We're just two people who survived each other. That's all we'll ever be." Ethan nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He handed her half the cash he was carrying. Emergency money, enough to start over. "Good luck," he said. "You too." Vivienne walked away, didn't look back. Heard Ethan's car start behind her, heard it drive away in the opposite direction. She walked until she reached a bus stop, sat down on the bench, waited. A city bus came 20 minutes later, nearly empty. She got on, paid cash, sat in the back. The bus drove through neighborhoods she didn't recognize, past lives she'd never live, toward a future she couldn't see yet. Vivienne leaned her head against the window, watched the city lights blur past. For the first time in 18 months, she felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction, just quiet. The kind that came after a storm when everything was destroyed, but at least the screaming had stopped. She'd lost everything, her marriage, her identity, her revenge, but she'd gained something too. Herself. The real version. Not the woman Ethan wanted her to be, not the weapon Roman shaped her into. Just Vivienne Knox. Flawed, damaged, tired, but free. 6 months later, Vivienne stood in a small office in Seattle. Rain hammered the windows. Coffee steamed in a chipped mug on her desk. She'd rebuilt slowly, carefully. No shortcuts, no revenge plans, no men promising power. Just her, a laptop, and the knowledge she'd gained about corporate law and financial systems. She'd started a consulting firm. Nothing flashy, just helping small businesses navigate complicated regulations. Teaching people how to protect themselves from predatory contracts. It was honest work, clean work, work that helped people instead of destroying them. The pay was modest, the clients were grateful. And every night, Vivienne went home to a tiny apartment that was hers alone and slept without nightmares. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Is this Vivienne Knox?" A woman's voice, professional. "Who's asking?" "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a reporter with the Seattle Times. I'm working on a story about Roman Castelli's trial. I heard you were connected to his organization." Vivienne's hand tightened on the phone. "Where did you hear that?" "Sources. I can't reveal them. But I'd like to interview you, get your perspective. You were there when the FBI arrested him, right?" No comment. "Ms. Knox, the public deserves to know. The public doesn't deserve anything from me." Vivienne's voice was firm. "I'm not part of that story anymore. Find someone else." She hung up, sat there staring at the phone, at the name she'd reclaimed. Vivienne Knox. Not Vera Castellano, not Mrs. Mercer, just herself. The reporter would probably call back, probably dig up the whole story. Vivienne's marriage, her disappearance, her time with Roman. Let her. Vivienne was done hiding, done running, done being ashamed of what she'd survived. She finished her coffee, went back to work, helped a small bookstore owner understand their lease agreement, saved them from signing something that would have bankrupted them in 6 months. At 5 p.m., she locked up, walked home through rain that never stopped, made dinner in her tiny kitchen, ate alone while reading a novel that had nothing to do with crime or revenge or power. Around 8, her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. "I saw you're in Seattle now. Proud of you. E." Vivienne stared at it for a long time. Then she deleted it without responding. Ethan was part of the past, along with Roman and Manhattan and the woman who'd stood in the rain holding a ruined cake. She was someone different now, someone who'd survived 2 men who thought they could define her, who'd learned that power was empty and revenge was poison, and the only thing worth having was freedom. Vivienne turned off her phone, finished her book, went to bed early, and somewhere in her dreams she saw herself standing on that terrace in Manhattan, watching the city lights. But this time she was alone. No husband, no crime lord, no diamonds, no cage. Just her and the night and the quiet realization that she'd finally found what she'd been looking for all along. Not love, not power, not revenge, just peace. 1 year after that, the coffee shop in Portland was small, cozy, the kind of place that served actual good coffee instead of corporate sludge. Vivienne sat at a corner table working on her laptop. Her consulting firm had grown. She had 3 employees now, real clients, a reputation for being fair and brilliant and impossible to manipulate. She'd cut her hair short, dyed it a different color, not hiding anymore, just changing because she wanted to, because this version of herself felt right. The door opened. A man walked in. Suit. Confident walk. Familiar face. Vivienne's heart stopped. Ethan. He saw her. Froze. For a moment they just stared at each other across the coffee shop. Then he walked over. "Vivienne." "Ethan." Her voice was neutral. "What are you doing here?" "I live here now. Moved 6 months ago. Started a tech company. Small. Ethical." He gestured to the empty chair. "Can I sit?" She nodded. He sat, ordered coffee. They waited in silence until the barista delivered it. "You look good," Ethan said finally. "Healthy." "I am." Vivienne closed her laptop. "You look different too. Older, wiser, hopefully less of an asshole." He smiled. It was genuine, self-deprecating. I've been in therapy, working on myself, figuring out why I destroyed everything good in my life. How's that going? Slowly, Ethan sipped his coffee. But I'm getting there, learning to be someone I don't hate. Good for you. They sat there. Two people who'd been married, who'd destroyed each other, who'd survived together. Now strangers sharing coffee. I'm not here to ask for anything, Ethan said. Not forgiveness, not friendship. I just saw you and wanted to say, I'm glad you made it. Glad you're okay. I'm more than okay. Vivienne's voice was steady. I'm actually happy for the first time in years. You deserve that. So do you. Ethan finished his coffee, stood up. Take care of yourself, Vivienne. You too. He walked out, disappeared into the Portland rain. Vivienne sat there for a long time, thinking about the woman she'd been, the woman she'd become, the journey between them. It hadn't been clean, hadn't been fair, hadn't been anything like the stories promised, but it had been real, and she'd survived it. That was enough. Vivienne packed up her laptop, left a tip, walked out into the rain. The city stretched ahead of her, full of possibilities, full of choices only she could make. She smiled, small, real. Then she walked forward into whatever came next, alone, free, unbreakable. The woman Ethan betrayed was gone forever. The weapon Roman created had been dismantled. What remained was just Vivienne Knox. And for the first time in her life, that was exactly who she wanted to be. Somewhere in a federal prison in upstate New York, Roman Castelli sat in a cell. Life sentence. No possibility of parole. He thought about the woman who'd destroyed him, the bartender he'd shaped into something dangerous, the weapon that had turned on its maker. And despite everything, he smiled. Because in the end, she'd learned exactly what he'd tried to teach her. That power was everything, that survival mattered most, that only the ruthless won. She'd just been better at it than he was. Roman respected that. In another city, Ethan Mercer ran a small tech startup, made modest money, lived modestly, dated occasionally but never seriously. He thought about Vivienne sometimes, about what they'd been and what they'd destroyed, about the second chance they'd squandered, but mostly he thought about becoming someone worthy of a second chance in the first place. It was slow work, painful work, but it was honest. And somewhere between New York and Chicago and Seattle and Portland, the ghost of Vivienne Knox's old life finally disappeared. Not with violence, not with revenge, not with any of the dramatic gestures stories promised. Just quietly, gently. Like smoke dissipating in wind. She'd been destroyed. She'd been rebuilt. She'd been destroyed again. And from those ashes, something new had grown. Something stronger than love. Stronger than hate. Stronger than power. Just a woman who'd learned that the only person who could define her was herself. And that was the most powerful thing of all. The end. 5 years later, a graduate student writing a dissertation on organized crime would interview dozens of people about Roman Castelli's empire. One name kept appearing in the margins, in sealed testimony, in redacted documents. Vera Castellano, the woman who'd helped bring him down. But when the student tried to find her, she'd disappeared. No records, no trail, nothing. Like she'd never existed at all. The student would eventually give up. Write the dissertation without that piece of the puzzle. Graduate. Move on. But sometimes late at night, scrolling through old news articles about the case, she'd see a photo. A woman in the background of a federal raid. Face turned away from cameras. Dark hair. Diamonds at her throat. And the student would wonder who she'd been, where she'd gone, whether she'd survived. The answers existed somewhere. In a coffee shop in Portland, in a small consulting firm that helped people protect themselves, in a woman who'd learned that survival wasn't about winning. It was about choosing yourself every single day, even when the world tried to choose for you, especially then. But those answers weren't for dissertations, weren't for true crime podcasts, weren't for anyone except the woman who'd lived them. And she was too busy building a real life to care about being remembered for the one she'd escaped. Vivienne Knox had learned the most important lesson of all, that being forgotten was sometimes the greatest gift, that obscurity was freedom, that the best revenge wasn't destroying your enemies, it was outliving them while being genuinely happy. She'd achieved all three, and that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.